Peter stepped into the elevator. It was just another ordinary day, or so he thought. He pressed the button for his floor, the 15th, hoping to get there quickly. The doors began to close with a soft hum, sealing him inside the small, confined space. Then, without warning, the elevator stopped. The sudden halt was jarring. It wasn't a gentle stop. It was more like a small earthquake shaking the entire cabin. Peter felt his heart leap into his throat. Panic started to set in. "Not today," he whispered, already anticipating the worst. He had a meeting in 10 minutes. He pressed the button again, harder this time. Nothing. The elevator remained unresponsive. He jabbed at the button repeatedly as if it were a stubborn vending machine. Still, no movement. The elevator remained still, a metal box suspended between floors. The silence was deafening. Peter took a deep breath. He needed a plan. He was trapped, and time was ticking away. His stomach rumbled, a reminder that he'd skipped lunch for the 3rd time this week. Hunger gnawed at him. "Great," he muttered. "Now I'll starve to death in this metal coffin." He couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. Peter decided to try the classic escape tactics. He had seen it in movies countless times. He mashed all the buttons from the highest floor to the basement. Each button lit up, but the elevator remained stubbornly still. "Maybe if I confuse it enough, it'll start working," he reasoned. His mind raced with possibilities, each more desperate than the last. The lights flickered, but the elevator didn't budge. It was as if the machine was mocking his efforts. Next, he cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted for help. His voice echoed in the confined space. "Hello? Is anyone out there? I'm stuck!" He hoped someone would hear him, but the silence was deafening. His voice echoed back to him, hollow and unanswered. The emptiness of the response was chilling. He imagined his voice cracking under pressure, turning into a high-pitched squeak. The thought made him shudder. Panic began to set in. His breathing became shallow and his heart raced. He pictured himself trapped in the elevator all night, maybe even longer. The thought was unbearable. "What if they don't find me until Monday?" he thought, horrified. The weekend stretched out before him like an eternity. His gaze darted around the elevator, searching for any sign of a hidden escape hatch. There had to be a way out, he thought desperately. Peter's eyes landed on his trusty backpack. It had been with him through thick and thin, a silent companion on countless adventures. It was packed with his usual assortment of random items. Peter often joked that his backpack was like a magician's hat, always full of surprises. "There's got to be something useful in here," he mumbled, his voice tinged with a mix of hope and desperation. He unzipped the backpack and began rummaging through its contents. Each item he pulled out seemed more useless than the last. Out came a half-eaten bag of gummy bears, a remnant of a snack from who knows when, then a crumpled map of the city, useless in this situation, but a keepsake from his last trip, and a dog leash, even more useless. Peter didn't even own a dog. He pulled out a small, dusty book titled Elevator Escape for Dummies. It was a gag gift from a friend, now ironically relevant. "Aha!" he exclaimed, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. Maybe this book held the key to his escape. He flipped through the pages, but the only diagrams were of happy stick figures calmly pressing the call button. Not exactly the detailed instructions he was hoping for. "Oh, come on!" Peter groaned, tossing the book back in his bag. His frustration was palpable, but he wasn't ready to give up just yet. Peter stared at her, bewildered. Peter watched in disbelief as she pressed the button for her floor. The elevator, as if nothing had happened, began to move. "Nope, weren't you just on this elevator?" A woman, seemingly unfazed by the abrupt halt, strolled in. In the midst of Peter's frantic search, the elevator doors slid open. "This is your floor." Peter looked down at the control panel. And there it was, glowing brightly, the close door button. He had accidentally pressed it during his button-mashing frenzy. Heat crept up his neck as he realized the absurdity of the situation. "Right," he mumbled, forcing a weak smile. He shuffled out of the elevator, his face burning with shame. The woman chuckled softly as the doors closed behind him.
Like this hilarious story? Subscribe to our channel for more funny content. Don't forget to like and leave a comment telling us about a time you got stuck in a funny situation.